This file was extracted from a darknet server known to operatives as Object 404. The accompanying note read, "Digitized, handwritten diary found aboard the abandoned Soviet weather station Sever 17 at the end of the polar night in 1989. The incident was classified by the first Chief Directorate of the KGB of the USSR. The classified status was never lifted. I have translated the contents for you. Listen carefully. Here is the final entry that was discovered in the radio room. They don't knock on the door. They scratch inside the radio receiver. The temperature in the room is -10. But I'm sweating. Because the one standing outside the window, he has my face. And he is asking to be let in to warm up. November 12, 1422, Polar Time. The 35th day of the polar night. Outside the window is absolute, impenetrable darkness. If you press your face against the armored glass of the porthole, you can only make out your own visage illuminated by the dim light of the lamp and rare snowflakes hitting the glass horizontally. The temperature on the external gauge showed -47 when I checked it 2 hours ago. The wind chill makes it feel another 10 degrees colder. My partner was evacuated a month ago, appendicitis. The helicopter arrived during a 3-hour window between a ground blizzard and a snow squall. Now, the nearest settlement is 1,500 kilometers of icy wasteland away. 800 miles. I am alone.
The station hums. It always hums. The diesel generator in the adjacent compartment runs non-stop, and its rhythmic vibration has become the only thing reminding me of my own heartbeat. If you listen closely, it feels like this heart is beating somewhere in the walls, not in my chest. The smell here is a mixture: diesel fuel, burnt dust on the heater coils, the metallic taste of dry air that corrodes the throat. Routine saves you from madness. Every 3 hours, I go out into the airlock and record the instrument readings: pressure, humidity, wind speed, outside temperature, everything by the book. November 14, 0147. Just finished the night rounds. A strange thing. The radar is picking up interference. Not a storm front, not a magnetic storm. The signal just dies 100 meters from the station as if it's hitting a solid wall. But that's not the most alarming part. The anemometer on the mast shows a wind speed of 0 meters per second. Absolute calm. This is impossible in the Arctic, especially right now. I opened the external microphone channel, the ones wired to the station's hull. Their signal comes through the wires. I can hear everything happening outside. At first, I heard silence, absolute cotton-heavy silence. And then the mics picked up a crunch. It was a heavy crunch, not the light squeak of snow under the paws of an Arctic fox or a bear. It sounded as if something massive, dense, weighing a ton, was slowly shifting its weight from foot to foot. The crunching was rhythmic. Someone was walking around the station in a circle. I turned off the microphones, killed the lights in the airlock, and stood in the dark, pressing my forehead against the cold glass. I saw nothing. Out there, even my own hand pressed against the glass disappears into the darkness.
I convinced myself it was shifting ice, a crack in the glacier beneath the station. It happens. It has to be that. November 18, 2209. Today, the radio came alive. It started with white noise. Usually, the rescue frequency is dead silent. I know no one will make contact until summer. But at 21:47 local time, I heard the static change pitch. It got deeper, like someone breathing into the microphone on the other end. I approached the console, adjusted the interference filters. A voice broke through the crackle. It spoke Russian, but the words were wrong. Like a tape deck chewing the magnetic tape, the sound was stretched out. The intonations didn't match the rhythm of the phrases. Misha, open the airlock. We're freezing. I recoiled from the console. My chair fell to the floor. The sound seemed deafening in the silence of the radio room. The voice called me by my name, and the voice belonged to Sergei, my partner, the one the helicopter took away to Murmansk for surgery a month ago. Let us in to warm up, Misha. I turned off the radio, cut the power switch, and backed away to the far wall. The room was quiet, only the generator humming its endless song. I waited 5 minutes, then turned the radio back on. White noise. Nothing. I had almost convinced myself it was a hallucination. Sensory deprivation syndrome. The brain creates familiar sounds itself when there are no external stimuli. Classic. I read about it in the isolation survival manual. Then I looked out the window. The spotlight on the mast illuminates a 20-meter patch in front of the station. Snow. Snow and nothing else. I looked higher up. The spotlight didn't reach that far, but the blizzard died down for a moment, and I saw them. Silhouettes. They stood on the very edge of light and darkness. There were 3, maybe 4 of them. I couldn't count. They were too tall, inhumanly tall. Their limbs, arms, legs seemed longer than they should be. Not disjointed, no, just wrong, like people who had been stretched out. They stood completely still, motionless, without shivering, at -50 degrees, without clothes. I looked at them, and they looked at the station. I couldn't see faces, only shadows, slightly denser than the darkness itself. I blinked. They vanished. I sat in the radio room with the lights on all night. The radio remained silent. November 20, 03:14. I just woke up in my chair. The power went out. Not everywhere. The emergency lamp is still on in the radio room, but the main lighting is off. I hear that the diesel generator has gone quiet. Its heart stopped. I checked the panel readings. There is fuel. Systems are nominal. The generator simply turned off from the outside. The temperature in the room has already begun to drop. I feel the cold creeping out of the ventilation grates, from the metal walls, from the floor. My fingers are going numb as I write these lines. I need to go outside, restart the generator.
If I don't do this within an hour, the temperature will drop so much that the life support systems will freeze. And then, me. But out there, right now, it's -50. Total darkness, and those who stood at the edge of light. I checked the radio. The switch is on. Rescue frequency. White noise. And then, cutting through it, a voice. Not Sergei's this time. My own. It sounded from outside, from the radio speaker, but as if the microphone had been taken out into the freezing night. The voice was copied perfectly. Every intonation, every pause. But at the end of the phrase, it slowed down, stretched out, turning into a low, guttural sound that a human throat is incapable of producing. Mikhail, come out. Warm up. I turned off the radio. I'm putting on the polar suit, checking the flare gun. A lantern hangs in the airlock, but I know as soon as I open the outer door, the darkness will swallow its light in 3 steps. The generator is 40 meters from the station. 40 meters. In the dark. If I don't return, let this entry be my last. But if I don't go out now, I will die here within 2 hours. Freeze to death in this chair, pen in hand. I can hear that the wind has died down. Outside is absolute silence, and the crunch of snow. Heavy, measured. Someone is waiting for me at the door. I am opening the airlock. November 20, 0341. Writing this in the airlock, between the 2 doors. The left leads into the station, the right, out there. Polar suit is on, checked it 3 times. Fur boots, woolen thermal underwear, aluminized coating. The manual says a last 2 hours at -50 in this. Flare gun in my right hand, 3 flares, 1 in the chamber. I am opening the outer door. The air tears the breath from my lungs. It's not cold, it's a physical strike, like breathing in broken glass. My lungs burn. My eyelashes freeze together in a second. The lantern in my left hand snatches from the dark only the snow under my feet and my own boots. The light doesn't travel further than 3 meters. It simply dies in the dark. 40 meters to the generator. I count my steps. 1, 2, 3. Silence. Absolute. The blizzard has stopped, as if someone pressed pause. I only hear my own breathing and the crunch of snow under my feet. 7, 8, 9. A crunch behind my back. I stop, stand still, breathe into my collar so as not to frostbite my face. Listen. Silence. I keep walking. 15, 16. The crunch repeats, now from the side, on the left. It's synchronized with my steps. When I take a step, a crunch. When I freeze, silence. As if someone is walking in step with me, a couple of meters away in the dark, just outside the lantern's reach. I don't turn my head. I don't look. 23, 24. The generator. I see its silhouette, a diesel box on a concrete base. Snow has drifted right up to the lid. I throw back the hatch, thrust my hand inside, grope for the levers. My fingers aren't obeying. The cold has eaten away the sensation. I turn the lever. 1, 2, 3. The diesel coughs, sneezes, falls silent. Come on. The words break from my lips. I look around. The lantern jerks. The light glides over the snow. Tracks. I see tracks, not my own. They don't lead to the generator. They encircle the station. Dozens, hundreds, but they aren't footprints. They are deep furrows, as if something heavy was dragged through the snow, leaving trenches behind. The furrows converge at the station walls, at every porthole, at every door. I turn away, grab the lever with both hands, pull. The diesel roars. The light above the station flared up. The spotlight on the mast flooded everything around with an unnaturally white glare. I squinted, covering my face with my arm. When my eyes adjusted, no one. Empty snow all around. And the tracks. Only the tracks. But they aren't there. No silhouettes. I turn toward the station, take a step, and I hear a voice. Out of the darkness, from the direction the spotlight doesn't hit, from the southeast where the ice field fades into nowhere. Help. My voice. A perfect copy. Every intonation, every tremor. I'm cold. Let me in, please. I run. 40 meters back, snow flying from under my boots. The suit is heavy, breathing tears at my throat. I dropped the lantern. It stayed in the snow, shining into the sky, useless. Behind me, the crunch. Heavy, measured, stomping, not footsteps, blows, like someone is chasing me, taking 3 massive steps for every one of mine. I fly into the airlock. My hands grab the metal handle of the inner door. I pull. It won't close. I pull the door toward me with all my weight, my whole body. The edge of the door is almost touching the frame, and then something strikes it from the outside. The door is ripped from my hands, swings wide open. I fall flat on my back onto the concrete floor of the airlock. The flare gun slips, rolls into the corner. I see the doorway. Beyond it, darkness. And in that darkness, fingers. They wrap around the edge of the door from the outside. Long, too thin. The joints protrude where there shouldn't be any. The skin is gray, like a drowned man's. The fingers squeeze. The door begins to open back up, slowly, with a metallic groan, as if it's being torn from its hinges. I crawl to the flare gun, grab it, aim it at the doorway. I shoot. The flare erupts with a hiss, slams into the upper frame. The airlock is flooded with a blinding white light. The air fills with the acrid smoke of burning magnesium. And a sound. Not a scream, not a howl. A sound like thick ice cracking when the water beneath it drains away. The fingers disappear. The door slams shut on its own, with a crash that pops my ears. I jump up, slide the bolt shut, all 3 bolts. Then I grab the welding torch from the emergency kit. My hands are violently shaking, but I weld the door to the frame. The seam is uneven, crooked, but the metal catches. I am safe. I am inside. November 20, time unknown. The clock has stopped. I am not safe. They are outside. All of them. I hear them. First there were thuds, sporadic, rhythmic, like someone walking on the roof. Now they aren't hiding. Now they are letting me hear them. The radio turned on by itself. I didn't touch the switch. It just buzzed, hissed, and voices poured out of the speaker. Not one, a choir. I recognize some of them. Sergei, my partner, The voice of a polar explorer from Sever 12 who went missing 2 years ago. A woman. I don't know her, but her voice comes from the speaker, and she is weeping. They are all speaking at once. Different phrases, different intonations, but the words are the exact same.
I turned off the radio, ripped out the switch. It still works. The voices come from the speaker even when the power is completely disconnected. The glass, the porthole in the radio room, armored glass. It should withstand hurricane winds up to 200 kilometers an hour. Right now, something heavy is striking it. Thud. The glass trembles but holds. Pause. 3 seconds. Another thud. A crack, small, from the edge toward the center. I am writing this in the radio room. I barricaded the door with a cabinet and metal sheets. The generator is running, but it's cold inside. Not from the weather. The thermometer reads -12, but I feel the cold rising from the floor, from the walls, from the air itself. The cold is coming from them. They are right under the window. I hear breathing, thousands of exhales, rhythmic, calm. They aren't hitting the glass anymore. Now they are just watching. I see them. Their faces are pressed against the armored glass from the outside. They aren't freezing. They are smiling. Faces. My faces. Each one has my features, my eyes, my nose, my lips, but stretched, wrong, like someone stretched a mask of my skin over a head that is far too big. I don't know what time it is. The clock stopped. The lights could go out at any minute. There's fuel for 8 hours. Then the generator will die. Then they will come in. I am ending this entry. If anyone finds this diary, do not look for me. Do not open the door. Weld it shut from the outside. Board up the portholes. And do not listen to the radio. They are still out there. And they speak with our voices.
A rescue expedition arrived at Weather Station Sever 17 3 months later, when the polar night ended. The station was locked from the inside. The airlock door was welded shut. Weld marks on the metal. The hand was uneven, hurried. It took 6 hours to cut it open. Inside, they found neither Mikhail's body, nor traces of blood, nor any signs of a struggle. His polar suit was neatly folded on the cot in the living quarters. The flare gun lay nearby. Both remaining flares were in place. Only one had been used. The radio room porthole was covered in a web of cracks, but it had held. One detail struck the rescuers. The radio transmitter was still on. The interference filters were disabled. The transmitter was broadcasting on an open frequency into the empty airwaves. The sound of breathing, even, calm. The breathing of thousands of people who had never been at this station.
The expedition left Sever 17 2 days later. The station was sealed. The facility was removed from the registry of active weather posts. The classified status was not lifted until 2003. The Object 404 archive contains hundreds more of these files. And if you are listening to this in the dark, make sure your window is tightly closed.